I believe we can.
Yeah.
I believe we are. Huh? Yeah.
Bob's right too.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Everything changed. Cleaned up my mom's house and stuff, so everybody's supposed to get together then, so.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I think at your desk you'll see a change in order. You'll see a new agenda. Just to talk, we'll be dealing with what was in the previous package. I'd like to call the February meeting of the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Ms. Harris, would you please give prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we're gathered here tonight, we want to thank you for another day of life, health, and strength. Lord, we thank you for the citizens that are here, those who may be listening online. Lord, we ask you just to continue to keep us on one accord, that we might do the business of this county for your will, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Evans, safety instructions, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Ms. Best to give us our safety instructions for this evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to know where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit sign. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional directions and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Are there any additions or deletions for the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask if you would consider adding contracts at item 10.9. There's one change order I'd like for you to consider.
Any objections? Hearing none, they're added. You have your minutes of your January meeting in your agenda package. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next, Mr. Evans.
Next, as a scheduled appointment, we have with us tonight Ms. Sue Howard, who's the director of the Edgecombe County Memorial Library, who'd like to give you an update on the library's capital project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Glad to be here. I'm here to thank you for providing funding for the 8 new ductless units that were installed in the older portion of the library building in November and December. The old system, a boiler and a chiller, were on their last legs with only 3 of the 9 registers actually producing heat. Staff and everyone who frequents the children's department are deeply grateful. I have brought each of you a copy of the latest newsletter so you can see some of what is going on at the library these days. We have lots of opportunities for both adults and children, and in keeping with the Get Off the List initiative, many of our offerings are oriented toward health and fitness. We have classes on healthy eating, yoga and step classes, mental health programs, etc. In order to offer these opportunities, we have formed partnerships with many different organizations. We are currently partnering with Downey's Partnership for Children, Carver Elementary, Martin Millennium Academy, the Tar River Players, Tarboro Parks and Rec, Edgecombe County Parks and Rec, ECU Health, the Edgecombe County Extension Office, Freedom.org, the State Library, NC Humanities Council, and the Cannon Foundation, among others. The Cannon Foundation funds have paid for pillar booths, which are sound dampening 2-person booths, which can be used for interviews, computer proctor testing, or telehealth. These should be delivered and installed within the next 3 weeks. Finally, I'd like to remind you of some of the services we offer that many people are unaware of. We provide meeting spaces for groups. We assist with resume construction and job searches. We have an ongoing book sale. We deliver and pick up library materials for homebound patrons. We are a passport acceptance agency, the only one in the county. And moving into spring and summer, we have an active seed library, which is supported by Freedom.org. Please come and visit us and see what your library has to offer. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Ms., any questions? Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Tonight I wanted to share with you and for the audience an update on the due diligence that we've been doing as it relates to data centers or possibility of data centers in the county. And so I'm just going to share a few slides with you as soon as they get that pulled up. As you know, we've had a lot of discussions about data centers over the last several months, and you know, we as the staff on behalf of the board, and you all, the board yourselves, you have worked very hard to better understand data centers' potential impact on the county. And so just wanted to summarize some of where we are today. Oh, okay, gotcha. Also, you have in your packet a proposed guidance for the creation of a data center advisory group. And so we'll discuss that some tonight as well. It will be the other presentation. You'll see one on data centers. There it is. All right. So first, just a very broad timeline. As you all will remember, back in the summer of 2025, we had actually a couple of data center projects that show interest in Edgecombe County, and that's where our due diligence began. Of course, one of those projects was more active and became more advanced than the other, and is the project with Energy Storage Solutions that most people are more familiar with. In October of last year, we held and sponsored an information session at the Ag Center at Kingsborough that was very well attended. We got a lot of good feedback from citizens that night. Also in that same month, we visited, along with some of the representatives from the town of Tarboro, we paid a visit to Memphis, Tennessee to see a data center that was large scale with electricity generation using natural gas. Also during that month, Mr. Matthews visited a data center in Knightdale, and I believe a couple of commissioners did as well. And Mr. Matthews also visited an electricity generation facility at NC State campus, again, in an effort to try to better understand what these types of facilities entail. In November of last year, you'll recall that you all adopted a text amendment to our Unified Development Ordinance that added data centers as a permitted use in M2 zones that also includes certain development standards. In January of 2026, or January of this year, we were invited to and attended a community meeting that was held by and attended by a number of the folks that are in the audience tonight. Also that same month, last month, we published a survey on data centers, and I want to share with you now, excuse me, some of the results. This was an online survey that we received over 300 responses, and that included about 8 or 9 handwritten or hard copy responses. You'll see this diagram here shows where the people live as they identified in the survey. You'll see the vast majority, or almost half of them, 48.7%, were folks who live here in the town of Tarboro, and second, almost 28% in the unincorporated areas of the county. Question that was asked on the survey is your perspective on data centers, which statement best reflects your view, and you'll see 82.8% of those who took the survey said that they were opposed to any data center development in Edgecombe County, and then other responses spread out from there. Question was asked regarding utility rates. Some residents have expressed concern that a data center would increase utility rates. Do you have that concern? And you'll see that over 80%, almost 82% expressed that they do have that concern. The next is asking about growth, economic development, and housing. Do you support the county pursuing economic development and housing development? 42.3% said yes, 9.8% said no, and then 48% said it depends, which that's certainly understandable. The next one asked about trust in the process. How confident are you in the county's process for evaluating large development projects like this one? And you'll see, I think this lets us know, certainly for staff, lets us know that we've got some work to do. Show that we have a sizable percentage that has some not confident and some somewhat concerned. And again, in part of what we're doing here, and not just regarding data centers, the work we've done around solar farms and everything else, our job and what we're working hard to do is to do a better job to open lines of communication with our citizens, and this is part of this effort. The question was asked regarding information gaps. What information do you feel is missing or unclear about data centers in general or this specific proposal? And you see it starts with environmental impacts, air quality and health, on down to regulatory oversight. So, and the list is much longer there, but I couldn't include it all on this slide. There were opportunities in this survey for folks to respond, as with open-ended, well, not open-ended questions, but they could respond with their answers other than clicking or checking a multiple choice response. And we saw a number of reoccurring themes or reoccurring concerns that included concerns about environmental impacts, the use of resources like land, electricity, and water, lack of job creation as it relates to data centers, concerns about AI or artificial intelligence, and the potential impact on increasing utility costs. So where we are and what's next, the data center project that's been the most active, which is with Energy Storage Solutions, that project is still pending. Proof of funding, as we all know, as we've communicated, we've asked for the company to provide documentation showing that funding has been secured for investment in it, as well as I assembled a list of questions that we gathered from community sessions we've attended, responses that we've gotten from the public here in our meetings, as well as from information we got in the survey that we took. And so I prepared a letter and sent it to representatives with ESS with the list of those questions asking for their response. As I mentioned a moment ago, we will be forming a data center advisory group. It will be similar to what we did with our solar farm stakeholders group. And I think it's important for us to continue this conversation. You'll see in the information that you have in your agenda packet, I described there what the mission and the scope of work would be for that advisory group. We want to make sure that we have a balanced representation in that group, as we did with the stakeholders, the solar farm stakeholders group. We want to make sure it includes those who are opposed to data centers, those who are in favor, those who may be neutral. We also want to include a number of our staff that will have an appropriate and helpful perspective in the conversation, and also a number of what we'll call subject matter experts. And so I'll be forming that. I'll be reaching out, inviting people to participate in that soon. Certainly, if you see the list that I'm proposing, if you have others that you would like for me to invite, let me know. In addition to that, I think it's important for us to know, especially for our citizens that we serve, to know that the county continues to explore other economic development prospects unrelated to data centers. I know you've seen the feedback, we've been hearing the feedback, and there's been concern about data centers, but I think it's important for our citizens that we serve to know that that's not the only type of project that's looking at Edgecombe County or at Kingsborough. So none of those are at a point now where we're able to share it, but I think there are some promising things. I think what this process does for us, the process I just described from the community meeting that we had, the community meeting that we attended, the public comments we've been hearing at this meeting, the survey, and then this advisory group that we will pull together. This is a mechanism for us as the county to use to continue to, and hopefully to better listen to concerns from our citizens, not just on this subject, but others. We sort of plowed that path already with solar farms. We heard a lot of concerns about that. And I think that stakeholders group was very helpful to us in better understanding what those concerns are and bringing those back and recommendations back to the board. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight. And again, as we keep moving this forward, we will keep the board and the public informed. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? All comments?
I've seen the list. I really want to know what you hope to accomplish with this advisory group.
So the goal is to better understand these concerns, to then to look at whether or not there are opportunities that we could address those concerns. Similar to like with the solar farms, there were concerns about the site of them, the vegetative buffers not being maintained. We want to know, are there things that we could put in place to reasonably address those concerns? Now, I know that we have some citizens that feel strongly about data centers and feel like we should close the door on them, period. And I think that shows in some of the responses that we got. I feel like that is worth at least a little more time for us to continue to do some due diligence to see, is there a way that could be an opportunity for the county and it be best handled through whether we do additional text amendments to our ordinance to put in some additional measures to address some of those concerns or not. But just for us to be able to have a group conversation that can be guided and constructive and then bring back some feedback to this board.
And with that, now the list you said, will you have the information that you've asked for back? Otherwise, to me, this is just going to be a talk at the death if you don't have the answers to the questions that they've been bringing.
I'm glad you asked that because I think it's important for this group is not to just discuss that particular project.
Okay.
I think the purpose of this group is to look at data centers in general,
Okay.
and if the county should be open to it, and if so, what measures, protective measures should be put in place or not, but not just that specific project. Good question, though. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So I see you got county staff and you got people from the community. Can a commissioner be represented on here too?
It's totally up to the board, absolutely, yes.
I think one of the statements he did say is any other way. And we don't need to ask him can, we just need to tell him to do it.
And Mr. Boswell.
Okay. It ain't no can, okay?
That sounded like a self-nomination.
Yeah, well, and it appears right now it's Mr. Boswell, okay?
I'd rather ask
Okay.
for forgiveness.
Okay, but there's no, boards don't ask staff, boards tell them.
It's good to know that we.
They might not do it that way, but go ahead. Go
We
ahead.
included the subject matter experts. I think they would probably be more helpful with the answers. I think what Val was talking about. this is why, this is what it does, this is what it doesn't do.
Yeah.
And then you can ask directly to those people who they are. So I'm glad that they are a part of it. And this group was well put together.
Well, mine would just be a comment in terms of based on what you brought, so, and it appears to me that based on the development of the advisory group, it would be no intent of this board in taking action to such time on the proposal that's before us, okay, until such time as we've had, time for them to meet and maybe whatever their, and consider their recommendations on that.
Yes, sir.
I think that would be my comments in terms of, based on what we developed as the continuing education process for us to make, before we can make a determination, and I'm saying on action as it relates to data centers. Would that be correct? Any other thoughts in terms of the board and how we might address that? So that, to me, I'm saying that is not an agenda item. That should not be an agenda item on such time as the advisory committee has met and we consider whatever they've done.
Yes, sir.
Would that be the intent of the board?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I think so.
Okay. Moving on. Public hearing. A public hearing to consider rezoning application case number 25-R06 to rezone property from AR30 to R20. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Public notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners on Monday, February 16th at 6 p.m. in the Jobs and Development Commissioners Room located on the second floor of the County Administration Building at 201 St. Andrew Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, to consider and act upon case 25-R06, a request to rezone the parcel owned by Brian and Marlo Parker located on Colonial Road, Tarboro, also identified as parcel 472679225400. Copies of the proposed zoning map are available for public inspection during business hours 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205. All interested residents and citizens are invited and urged to be present and make their views known. This meeting will also be live streamed on the county's YouTube channel at youtube.com/EdgecombeCountyNC/streams.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to call up Mr. Durbin Spell to present this to the board.
Good evening. All right. Mr. Brian Parker requests to rezone a parcel to be subdivided of approximately 10 acres from AR30 rural residential to R20 mixed residential district. The purpose of the request is to allow for higher density development with minimum lot sizes of 20,000 square feet. The planning board voted unanimously to forward the rezoning request to the Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendation. The planning board stated the rezoning from AR30 to R20 is consistent with Edgecombe County's adopted policy guidance as expressed in the 2014-2034 Comprehensive Plan, based on that is consistent with Housing Policy Number 1, Housing Options and Diversity. So the AR30 district is established to protect rural and undeveloped land from premature development at densities that are inconsistent with county's adopted policy guidance. The R20 mixed residential district has a neighborhood scale or character with individual developments arranged along major transportation corridors and within designated areas proximate to municipal areas. See a picture of the site right there. Our comprehensive land use plan recommends that site as agricultural use. Our current zoning, of course, is AR30. And there's some pictures of the site itself. Okay. Regarding your decision, Board of Commissioners shall either approve the application, deny the application, approve the revised application, or remand the application back for further consideration. And also, in making this decision, the Board of Commissioners shall adopt a written statement of reasonableness and consistency with the county's adopted policy guidance in accordance with Section 160D-605 of North Carolina General Statutes. And I have the applicant here. He's here to answer any other questions you may have.
Any questions?
Mrs. Bell, in requests like this, do the surrounding citizens who may live around this have to get a letter or notification?
Yes, all property owners that are adjacent to the subject property receive a letter.
And did any of them come to the planning board with an opinion?
No, ma'am.
Have you had any opposition?
I haven't received any phone calls, and again, with no residents came to the planning board meeting or anything.
Has there been, there's no plans or site, anything as a part of this application?
No, because this is a conventional rezoning application. The rezoning process that would have a concept plan that would be under our conditional rezoning process, in which a concept plan would be included.
I know when we've done it for others, they've provided it, so I just,
Yes, well, under the conventional rezoning process, that does not require a site plan or a concept plan.
Well, help me with the difference in the conventional process and whatever, and the other process that would, okay?
Yes, sir. So in the conventional rezoning process, an applicant is requesting to be rezoned from one zone to another zone.
Okay.
Without any conditions. And so they requesting to, such as this application, he's requesting to go from AR 30 to the R20 district. And going to the R20 district, in your use table, there are a number of uses that are permitted in the R20 district, in which if theoretically this rezoning is approved, the applicant could apply in those uses in that district.
Okay.
In the conditional rezoning process, the applicant proposes conditions with the application along with a concept plan. And some conditions, as the board had experienced in the past, include limiting the housing type to maybe just stick-built homes, or, having increased setbacks or increased buffers. Those are some of the examples of conditions that will accompany a conditional rezoning request, along with a concept plan that's also submitted with the application.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, we'd like to call for public comments. Is there anybody here to speak? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Hearing none. You coming forward? Please come forward.
I'll go first. Kevin Wilson, 3767 Howard Avenue,
this is,
Tarboro.
this is just on this request.
On this request?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Not public comments yet, okay. Hearing none. I'd like to adjourn the public hearing. Is there a motion from the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mrs.
Well,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Spell's also included a consistency statement in your agenda.
I didn't see. Please read that. Yeah, that, I didn't see that, okay. Okay,
That, Mr. Boswell.
Who made the
may
motion?
include that
Right
consistency
here, Mr.
statement with his
Boswell.
motion if he chooses.
right here,
Yeah, it's on the back of it.
right here. Go ahead. Read that.
Well, I mean, it says that
Edgecombe
it's
County Board
consistent
of-
with, yeah,
Read it, go ahead and read that, your motion.
the application consistent with adopted policy guidelines. The Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is consistent with Edgecombe County's adopted policy guidance as expressed in the 2014 to 2034 comprehensive plan based on the following reasons. It supports housing policy number 1, housing options and diversity.
Who's motion? Did I get a second?
Well, there's also
the second.
And also, the
Yeah, go
Edgecombe
ahead.
County Board of County Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is reasonable and is in the public interest based on the following reasons. It encourages land development in areas with infrastructure and promotes population growth.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I mean, a second. Questions?
I got some questions.
Go right ahead.
Is the water and sewer to this only water? So it would have to be septic? I know that a lot of counties around us are not doing that anymore in R20 zones. If you want septic, it has to be AR30 zones. So something for us to consider, not even knowing what's going to be built there, because we can't put condition on it. So just something for the board to consider. My vote's not going to be to approve only because of that. I would recommend that we send it back to the planning board to get some more clarification about what was going to be built.
Well, I think we're dealing with what our ordinance is now. Okay, and it can happen. Is there any other comments? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
No, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand, please. All opposed? Motion in favor passes 6-1. Next, public hearing, a public hearing to consider text amendments to UDO TA 6-25 updates to provide clarification and propose adjustments. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Public notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners on Monday, February 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room, located on the second floor of the County Administration Building at 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina 27886, to consider an amendment to UDO TA 6-25. The proposed text amendment would provide clarifications and adjustments to the applicable sections of the Edgecombe County Unified Development Ordinance, UDO. Copies of the proposed text amendments are available for public inspection during business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205. All interested residents and citizens are invited and urged to be present and make their views known. The meeting will also be live streamed on the county's YouTube channel at youtube.com/edgecombecountync/streams.
Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call up Mr. Durbin Spell again, and he will present to you a review of these recommended changes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is county staff initiated UDO text amendments to clarify and adjust the following sections in our Unified Development Ordinance. So after the conclusion of a legislative public hearing, the Board of Commissioners shall decide the application in accordance with the standards in section 2.3.24.f review criteria. The decision shall be one of the following: approve the application, deny the application, approve a revised application, or remand the application to planning board for further consideration. The decision shall be based on legislative discretion of the Board of Commissioners, take into consideration the recommendation of the planning board and the standards of section 2.3.24.f review criteria. In making its decision, the Board of Commissioners shall adopt a written statement of reasonableness and consistency with the county's adopted policy guidance in accordance with section 160D-605 of the North Carolina General Statutes. Mr. Meadows, Chad Meadows, he was supposed to have attended the meeting a couple of weeks ago. Due to this meeting being rescheduled, he had another commitment, so he could not come out today. But he was gracious enough to record a video for us which he explains the amendments. The video is about 30 minutes long, so we can play the video for you, or I can go through an abbreviated version of it. While this
Well,
is,
you got about 3 minutes to abbreviate it, okay? Okay. Don't you bring us that no more, okay?
So Durbin, just so the board can follow along, in your agenda packet, you'll see, there's a page, has page 8 at the bottom. And all of those in red is basically a heading of all the changes, is that correct? And if you like, he can just run through that list, and I think that's what you have on your slides here.
Yes, I'm gonna just go through the major areas.
Yes, sir.
So on page 4, 1.9.5B TRC composition, in which we will add representative from emergency services to the technical review committee. 2.3.17 preliminary plat. The major change with that is that no more than 4 new lots may have access to an external road in a major subdivision. 2.3.25, well, that talks about the same thing. In 2.3.27 vested right certificate, the change with that is we added corrected the procedural flow chart, and also clarified the date, the timeline in which vested right starts and ends, basically. And 2.4.4.1 application filing timeline. What we are proposing is to increase the time span with applications for conditional rezonings, plan development rezonings from 20 business days to 30 business days. And the reason for this is, as you recall, with the last amendment back in November, for conditional rezoning and plan development processes, we also added a public meeting that the applicant has to hold at least 10 days prior to the planning board. So in increasing the days from 20 business days to 30 business days, this gives the applicant plenty of time to advertise and get that meeting scheduled. And Johnny, go to slide 6. Okay, so the major change, animal husbandry, we clarified that to exclude exotic animals from this use for animal husbandry. And this was kind of in response to, I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago in Raleigh, there was a situation where you had an exotic animal on the loose. And, we want to make sure that we did not run into that situation here in the county. So that change was suggested. Johnny, okay. Principal use tables for campgrounds and RV parks. We will propose adding that use as a conditional, as a use in M1 and M2 districts under the conditional rezoning process, as well as regarding the access roads for RV parks. We'll make a change to the road standards in which the roads in RV parks do not have to conform to NCDOT standards, but have to meet minimal standards that the fire or emergency service deem necessary for emergency equipment to access that site. We received comment from the DOT when they did a review for a proposed RV park, and they thought DOT standards were a little excessive for RV park, so we decided to suggest that change. Johnny, go to page 8. Okay, for cemetery intermented, we're proposing added in use that will allow and intermittent on property, in which then the family can will have 180 days to record that intermittent at the Register of Deeds office. And this came about being that we had a couple of situations a couple of years ago in which we had individuals pass away suddenly, and way our ordinance is right now, they have to, find a surveyor and, wait for the survey to come out and, do a survey of where they're going to bury their loved ones, and which a lot of times with surveyors, it could be weeks before they, come out there, and what's not conducive to their needs for them to get be able to bury their loved ones in a timely manner. And so this change will, help those individuals out.
Please help me with it. So you're saying if I have a family member that I want to bury on my property, with this proposed change, I could do it?
Yes, you could do, and then you have 180 days from the time you buried your family member to get that burial site recorded. Whereas now in the ordinance, you have to get all that recorded first prior to getting a permit to bury your family member.
But they already do that.
Well, I guess that I'm a little concerned as to how I could just go ahead and do this. Well, what helps the county? What information does the county get to know that a person was buried on my property?
Well, they get the zoning permit. They come get a zoning permit for our office, like they do right now. So they would get the zoning permit.
I have to get the zoning permit for what? To bury?
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful. All right. Okay. That's helpful. Okay. In terms of I couldn't just so I do know your office do know that there's a burial site. You know that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interrupt, the issue is we've had several people who come asking for those permits, but there's no time to prepare, have a survey of a plat done and then recorded.
I understand fully, but I just wanted to know, I'm all right with it, the fact that the county is notified. But what I was hearing, the county was not notified. The county is notified through the zoning process that I'm going to bury on that site. Okay, I'm comfortable with that. Okay.
But is there a restriction, I read through this thing, and is there a restriction on how many people you can bury?
Well, the intermittent standard is for one person.
That's what
Of course,
I thought.
we also have a cemetery standard currently in our ordinance, and cemetery is for multiple people.
But that's a whole different ballgame. You gotta apply for a different.
Okay, so if I've got enough land, I could put a cemetery there. If I've got enough land, I could create a cemetery on my land.
Yeah, current
But
standard.
what we're speaking about tonight, you were referring to only one person.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've read that somewhere. I wanna be sure I read it right.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, I did want to ask, is there any tracking mechanism, like if they get the permit and 180 days is gone by and they still haven't sent it in? Is there any way that somebody's gonna check on why it hadn't been sent in?
Yeah, and that's something we probably build something within the office, some internal checks to ensure that that those individuals or family do record that within 180 days, and if not, then it would be considered a zoning violation, in which we would go through the zoning enforcement procedures.
I just want to make sure it's being followed up. There's no need to have it.
What does that include? You're gonna go through and do what?
You mean, what's the zoning
The
violation
zoning
process?
violation? I mean, what
Yeah.
happens? You dig 'em
Well,
up?
it's a process and it could be lengthy. So first we start with notice of violation, let them know that, they're in violation of the zoning. And then, hopefully we hear from that property owner and we can work something out. If not, then, we go through the process in which they can include other action, including seeking an injunction or what other action that I.
Financial or
No,
something?
right, no monetary
Financial.
penalty.
That's what you
Yeah.
said, it is financial. Unless the person that.
You're gonna have to put that up pretty steep. Make sure you get it in by 180 days. Rather, you got to pay $500. I think they'll get it in by 180 days. I'm
Okay.
serious.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Moving, any other questions? Moving on, go ahead.
Got out front. Back there.
I think you started again.
Let's see. All right, so 4.3.63, we'll talk about manufactured homes. In which this came up. Storage of unlicensed inoperable vehicles must be within an enclosed building or an opaque fence or wall. And then as far as manufactured homes in a flood zone, this was 4.4.2.b. That was in our flood overlay district section in which we corrected that or proposed correction of that to make that standard with the other portion of the UDO as far as removing manufactured homes from a prohibited use in a flood hazard area.
Now, this is mobile homes, specifically mobile homes.
Yes, sir.
Is that the standard, is the unlicensed inoperable vehicle, is that the standard for every other district?
Is that?
So, like, if we're specifically saying this on manufactured home zoned properties, is that the standard for every other district?
Would that be,
Well, this would be the standard for all the districts,
is it the standard for a stick-built home?
Well, it's talking about
For n-
manufactured homes because
We're strictly
manufactured
talking
homes-
about the manufactured home in those, any manufactured home.
Yeah, any manufactured
I got
home,
you,
yeah, because manufactured home is, can be
I
considered.
think what Mr. Thorne said, I think we do have another ordinance dealing with, like, automobiles that
Yeah.
are not,
Junk
okay. Is that
vehicles.
junk vehicles? I think we're talking about any other vehicle. Any other vehicle is under a part of the ordinance, I think.
Yeah, that's in our county code for junk
This is-
vehicle code. Yes.
How we
But-
deal,
but-
how we
but-
deal with
but-
junk, how we deal with junk cars, really.
Are we dealing with junk cars, I want to ask? I've been around the county.
Yes, well, when we receive
Do I need
complaints,
to send you all the address?
sure, I mean.
Well, you really,
Yeah, you can send us the address
most of
and-
all of that is dealt with by, complaint.
Yes.
Those are complaint originated, and I don't think we want to go around
Well, I
complaint.
told the citizen what she needed to do.
Yeah, I think that's a more,
Since she's got to look at it
Yeah,
every day, I told her to call, I gave her the telephone number, I gave her your name.
I wouldn't want my county commissioner sending an inspector at me.
I want to.
Go ahead,
I still don't understand that.
Oh,
go ahead.
Storage of an unlicensed, no license plate or inoperable vehicle or trailer prohibited outside, but is permitted within an enclosed building or an enclosed by opaque fence or wall. Wouldn't that be contrary to our junk vehicle ordinance?
They got a wall up, I can't see the junk.
I don't think so. Most junk vehicles, if they're in a garage, or in some places even with I don't know what we call it, but
It just seems unfair to me that we're gonna put it into the mobile home, manufactured home uses, but we're not gonna put it in for a site-built home.
it
The junk
It-
vehicle, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's covered, but it's just covered on another section of our UDO. This speaks strictly to, as I'm understanding it, speaks strictly to, the manufactured homes, I think we just deal with it different in another part of the statute. I mean, in another part of the UDO. Is that correct? You might do a better job explaining that than I do.
Well, I just want to get the question. So, I guess, Commissioner Thorne, your question is how we are approaching manufactured homes versus stick-built homes, or?
Yeah, like why is this specifically spelled out in the manufactured homes and not in the stick-built homes?
Yeah, so I guess with manufactured homes, sometimes we get calls about people asking to store their old mobile homes on piece of property. You know, they want to store them on this land parcel or that parcel. And so what this is doing is kind of a response to that. You know, from time to time people want, you know, they have you know, like a 1970 single wide, and they want to, you know, move it on a parcel, vacant parcel. And so we're kind of trying to, you know, answer that and address those type of issues.
I think the stick bit come on a code enforcement too. I mean,
Yes,
we would enforce that on a code enforcement in terms of if there's a vacant stick bit house in terms, and that's got to be demolished. Okay,
Yes.
so I think we're just talking about this specifically because it's different. It is mobile. You can move it. Okay, but the stick bit homes we have to demolish or have to go through a process of condemning and then demolish.
And our junk vehicle ordinance speaks of an unlicensed, unregistered, inoperable vehicle either has to be in an enclosed building or covered in order for it not to be in violation of the junk vehicle ordinance. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it essentially said. And I think we've had that for almost 20 years.
But if any of those vehicles are titled to someone that lives in that house, there's nothing we can do, is that right?
That's correct. Well, let me back up.
They're taxed differently, aren't they taxed differently? If
It's not running.
if you're taking it off the wheels, that's the whole. Can we ask the test?
Sure.
So an unregistered motor vehicle is required to be listed on your personal property listing form as of January 1st every year, versus a registered motor vehicle is taxed through its registration through the DMV. So it is taxable if you still own it. The value may differ if it's not in a condition to run, but just because it's not registered does not make it untaxable. So, yeah.
Well, I think we got about as much understanding as we're gonna get. Okay, okay. So look, anybody else? Moving on. Go ahead.
All right. All right. We're going to recycling center use standards, in which principal use recycling center was removed as a standalone use and was combined with transfer station and convenience site. So all those uses are combined as one, and which those uses will be converted from a special use to use by right in the M2 district. Okay. Also, with uses, as you recall, we discussed this, I guess, toward the end of 2024. Number of additional uses that we was looking at allowing possibly in the Kingsborough Business Park. And with that, the suggestion was made and was recommended by the planning board that hotel, motel, grocery store, pharmacy, adult and child daycare are added to the M1 industrial district as a use by right. College and university added to both M1 and M2 districts. Urgent care added to the M1 and M2 industrial districts as use by right. Community recreation added to M1 district as a use by right. and park or playground added to the M1 district as a use by right. Okay. Next, we'll go to home occupation, level 1 uses. This was a change that's being considered by the planning board over the last rounds of amendments. Usually we go through text amendments once a year, in which they were considering this last time and brought this back up again, in which, as for home occupations, it proposed that the size of a home occupation is increased from 25% of gross floor area to 50% of gross floor area of a dwelling, up to a maximum of 1,000 square feet inside the dwelling or in a accessory building. Now we go to the temporary staff housing, which this use was suggested to be added, in which temporary staff housing shall comply with the following requirements. All residential areas shall be located within 2,500 feet, linear feet of the site where staff are actively employed. Temporary staff housing facilities shall be located on the lot in the same zoning district as principal use or within a residential zoning district. Accommodation within a temporary staff housing facility shall be limited to employees, not members of the general public. All residential facilities associated structures shall comply with the federal guidelines for H-2A housing for temporary laborers, and all temporary housing shall be removed, and the site shall be developed or returned to its prior state prior to issuance of a final certificate of occupancy associated with the development created the need for the temporary housing. And so the concern was we may have a large development project in which there may be a need of influx construction workers, and there may be a need to house them temporary on the site or somewhere else. As for standards, access and circulation. So the major change with this, pre-existing driveways and access easements established before 11/1/21 may serve up to 4 lots without maintaining minimum easement width standards, separation, and setback standards. Currently, right now, if, let's say, someone has 1 lot off an easement and they want to do a subdivision of another lot, they would have to either increase the current easement. Let's say the current easement was 25 feet width. They would either need to increase that easement to 50 feet width, minimum width, or they would have to go to our Board of Adjustment and request a variance to do the subdivision using the easement in its current state.
You ought to be through with your 5 minutes.
I'm almost finished, so. Okay. So as for standards, connection to water system and wastewater treatment, this was basically getting the UDO and being consistent with current county code. UDO says 300 feet, mandatory connection distance to existing service reduced from 300 feet to 250 feet to be in line with what's in the current county code. Also, 6.4.9 would authorize the emergency services to authorize a different water line diameter for fire hydrants for any development as appropriate. 6.4.10, underground utilities, high voltage, 69 kilowatt and transmission lots are exempted from underground requirements. All right. So 6.6.1 D2 that talks about, discusses types of open space requirements. Regarding active recreation requirements, we would propose changing that from 45% of a total set aside for active open space to 500 square feet per unit to be consistent with the open space requirement in other areas of the UDO. Sidewalks, 6.6.1.E3, that it will allow for sidewalks to be credited towards the passive open space set aside percentage. Planning board recommended that and thought that doing that may encourage developers to install sidewalks in the developments. Also, special flood hazard areas could also be credited towards the passive open space percentage as well. 6.12.7C, flag lots. In our current UDO, flag lot width is 20, minimum flagpole width of a flag lot is 25 feet. And we are proposing to increase that to 35 feet. And this is after a discussion with NCDOT in which they made us aware that with the pipe sizes and stuff, minimum flagpole should be a minimum of 35 feet. I believe that's it. And those are the other non-substantive, those are cleaning up of minor areas in the ordinance.
Well, this whole process is cleaning up the ordinance, isn't it? Huh?
Yes.
I mean, that's really what this is doing in terms of you and our consultant going through,
Yes.
and anything that needs to be addressed is recommending changes.
Yes, sir.
Is that what I think? Okay.
Yeah, cleaning up and also improving some of the
I don't
processes
think,
also.
I don't know when we've had quite this many, and I guess we could have, I think this is the first I can remember,
Yeah,
of a major, request to amend your for clarification and adjustments, okay? The first I can remember, but I understand what the intent of it is, okay? That would be the intent, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments to Mr. Spells? Now, is that the same motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think, well, it's not exact. You have the proposed consistency statement down also.
Open for public comment.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
At this time, is anybody for public comment?
Would the public have had access to read this?
Yes,
all
ma'am.
this?
Yes, ma'am. It's in the notice. It states that it's available for public review in the planning department.
Is there a motion? Make a motion to read it.
Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is consistent with Edgecombe County's adopted policy guidance as expressed in the 2014 to 2034 Comprehensive Plan based on the following reasons. It is consistent with Growth Management Policy Number 1, Growth and Development Goal. Application is reasonable. The Edgecombe County Board of County Commissioners concludes that the application as presented is reasonable and is in the public interest based on the following reasons. Manage the physical growth and development of Edgecombe County.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Moving on. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for public comments. If you have anything to bring before this board, please come forward and state your, I guess before we get to that, is there anybody here that did not sign up, now you just stated that, and would like to speak to the board on public comments. Is anybody?
Okay. Okay.
This is time, I usually give an opportunity at the beginning of the meeting, I didn't give it. So if there's anybody who'd like to speak to the board during public comments, if you have not signed up, I'm gonna request that, give you an opportunity to sign up. Because once I start the public hearing, if you're not signed up, you would not be able to speak. I'll start the comments. At this time, Madam Clerk, please call.
Katie Zimmerman.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name's Katie Zimmerman. I'm here tonight in my role as your Pamlico Tar Riverkeeper for the local nonprofit Sound Rivers. With over 2,500 members, our mission is to advocate for and protect the Tar Pamlico and the Neuse rivers and the communities that rely on them. As data center development and operation is on the rise throughout the county and the state of North Carolina, they're becoming a known threat to water quantity and quality. Without the full detailed proposal from Energy Storage Solutions, though, we have more questions than answers. With my few minutes, I'll list some of these questions, specifically related to the water, that must be answered and considered by the board before allowing this proposal to proceed any further. The first one being, how much water will this data center use? Schaefer's claimed 500,000 gallons per day, but research has shown that data centers of this large size can use up to 5 million gallons a day. And along with that, does Rocky Mount's water treatment plant have the capacity to meet this demand? And does the Tar River, at a time where Edgecombe County has been identified by DEQ as one of the 2 counties in the state experiencing extreme drought, have the ability to provide this huge volume of water to a new industry? Second question is, what cooling methods will this data center use? There are an array of different processes that data centers use to cool their equipment, with varying complexities and expenses, but some require a lot less water than others. Third question is, what are all of the water contaminants that will be introduced during this cooling process? Depending on what methods are used, PFAS or forever chemicals are cited as a potential contaminant, as well as biocides, concentrated minerals, heavy metals, and nitrates. Those are also some common contaminants from the cooling tower blowdown process. And in the interest of time, I have more questions, but I'll skip ahead to the last one, which is, will the company and/or municipality be transparent about the volume of water usage and discharge? In many cases, the utility service agreements and reporting are not public record. With this lack of transparency becoming an issue, more cities and counties are requiring detailed water usage projections, long-term water management plans, and environmental mitigation commitments before approving new sites. The municipality also reserves the right to require industrial pretreatment permits for large water dischargers with contaminants of concern. What you'll find upon the ability to answer these water-specific questions and all other questions raised by our constituents is that the negative impacts severely outweigh any of the good. To use the Citizens for Responsible Zoning slogan during their fight against the IBP slaughterhouse, we can do better. Do better for your constituents than a data center that will bring no benefit to them, but will instead bring air pollution, noise pollution, higher utility bills, and water insecurity. Vote no to the sale of the land for Energy Storage Solutions. Thanks. And I do have a couple copies of the comments with my information attached if anyone has any follow-up questions or questions about water quality in general. And then also, while I'm up here, got a plug. We have got a upcoming event for Sound Rivers right here in Tarboro, just to teach community members, anyone that's interested, how to identify and report common pollution issues, and yeah, share that. So I have a couple flyers that I'm willing to pass around too. And it'll be hosted at Mr. Kevin Wilson's Oak Grove Retreat, same place that the last Kingsborough community meeting was held. Thanks.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Melanie Bradley.
Good evening, I'm Melanie Goff Bradley. I live on Powell Road in Edgecombe County. I know that Energy Storage Solutions has dangled some impressive promises of hundreds of jobs, millions of dollars in tax money, and promises to be a good neighbor. But data centers' reputations is diametrically opposite of that. And I know that you have been to Memphis to see a data center and possibly another location and NC State. Were these data centers, were these operations constructed and operated by the current business that we are considering? I really am suspicious about their promises. I really don't believe we'll have all those jobs after construction. And I'd like to know if they can show you a place to visit where you can see a data center that has been in operation by them for more than 1 year, with hundreds of jobs that are not related to the construction of the building, and where their neighbors feel that they have been good neighbors and not polluting the air or the water, or with sound pollution, or with light pollution. And I would like to know where this unicorn data center is, because all of the information that you read in social media and from television and radio stations seems to concentrate on neighbors of the data centers who are experiencing distress from noise pollution, from pollution that has caused children to become sick, and from decreases in property values such that they are no longer able to sell their home and move even when they want to, because they may be unable to complete the mortgage requirements if they're underwater due to the falling property values. So I would ask that you consider what the actual reality of data center is, and if they're able to build this good neighbor data center that they promised us, why hadn't they already?
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Kelvin Wilson.
This time I get to do it. You know, I was sitting over here thinking, this is so much like a data center coming to Edgecombe County. I was excited. Here, I was going to, get to do what I wanted to do, and then I got up here and I realized I didn't know everything that I thought I knew, and it was at the wrong time to do it. And for the last 7 months, since John Walter first wrote the article about the situation in Tarboro as it developed, and as they're coming to request the use of the Dunnings of a data center to go into Tarboro, that 7 months I have spent studying this current developer, but also, as many of you have, seen that there are vast differences in the data centers that are being built and projected to go all across the country. I know from my daughter's experience, there's even data centers that use green energy and are totally safe to use, but they're very expensive to build. There are developers that are unseemly and are in it for a quick cash return because they're going to build something and then sell it to some other larger group. Then again, there are large corporations that have got all their T's crossed and I's dotted and are trying to come in and build a data center. But even with those, the residents see problems and issues. And as I read more and more, because you start looking for something on Google or something, everything's going to come up about that in your feeds for a while. Technology is changing so quickly. I even saw an article today that said within 5 to 7 years we may not need data centers because the Chinese have already developed systems for handling data management with much smaller needs and requirements. It's going to change. And I think that I salute what you're doing with getting a committee involved. In fact, our Edgecombe Neighbors Data Center Accountability Group that sponsored the meeting the other night, what we're trying to do is educate or get people involved to know what's going on with this. 400 people filled out your survey. We had not even quite that many, about 300 fill out the one that we started. Well, in a county of just under 50,000, I believe our population is, that's only 1%. There's a lot of people out there that we find that don't know about this, but when you mention it to them or have them focus in on the possibility, they know enough already that they are very reserved and concerned about it. One of the things we're trying to do with our group is start to do more education and go out to different communities so that people do understand and can discuss pros and cons. We want Edgecombe County to succeed. We want good businesses coming here. But we want more involvement, and I think the last meeting we had, you were commenting that we're getting more involvement. Maybe that's a plus to this data center even wanting to come here, that we're getting more community involvement and understanding of the problems Edgecombe County has and that it needs to overcome. I'm going to stick tonight to suggest that we do what Chatham County and Gates County and now Canton, North Carolina have done and create a one-year moratorium to develop time for a committee to look into all aspects and to set some standards to judge anything like this that would come in the future. Also to give technology a chance to catch up. I remember when I was young, my brother worked for on a car IBM machine. We had to have a whole room with air conditioning to keep it cool and everything. Well, now my phone does more than that machine did. Time and technology are moving at such a rapid rate, they're going to improve, and we're going to get better opportunities to do this data center, this cloud type memory things that they're trying to do without having the problems that we're all discussing right here tonight. So I highly advise or request that the commissioners consider a moratorium on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, sir.
That's it. Any comments from the board? Well, I think I was just comment by the board, and that's to say that I think this board, based on Mr. Evans' recommendations in terms of the advisory committee, this board has listened. We're still listening. We have not made a decision, and it appears that we've just made a decision until such time as Mr. Evans come back to us from the advisory committee, from the advisory committee's recommendations, that we would not entertain an action as it relates to the moving on. Is that what we decided? I think that's what we decided, that we would not be taking an action on terms, an agenda item as it relates to the data center. Are there any comments from the board cleaning up what I just said?
Only thing that I would like to add on that is that we own the land for these proposed data centers. So that's our moratorium per se of not being able to vote on that. So that's the power of us owning the land and having options on land, and reasons why we're so eager to get more options so that we do have a voice in what those look like. So that would be kind of my, even if it's put onto the agenda, it's not gonna be voted on. It's gonna be voted on by the whole board.
And we have taken very serious look at anything that we've considered as economic development. Economic development is a closed session issue. There are certain things you have to do in closed session. So while you say, be open, there are certain things that we will not be open on because it's required by statute for us to keep it in closed session. So we are as concerned as you are, and it's an educational process for us also, and we appreciate. And you can see that our county is growing. Just what we went through in terms of cleaning up the UDO says that the staff has seen so many potentials, and they want to prepare us to be already prepared for that growth in terms of some of the things that they're bringing to us, recommending that we change our UDO so that they will already be in place so that certain things cannot happen to us. Any other comments from the board? If not,
Mr. Chairman, I got one comment.
please go ahead.
I've been asked by a lot of people, and I told them, I think this is our policy, and correct me if I'm wrong. If we do not have financials on any industry, we do not have a project. That's just the way it is. We don't have any financials, there is no project. And that's what starts or stops the process right there. And I think if you look at this company here, as far as I know, we have no financials on them.
And the other thing is, I'm glad you stated that. There are certain steps for the potential of any economic development. There are certain steps, there's an application, there's certain steps that boards have to approve before that company can move forward, okay? So it is addressing certain issues so that that company can advance to possibility that they probably can get the financing for it. But the final decision does rest with this board. But certain things, we can't, if we want to grow, we can't deny on the entrance of an application process. We have to help that company advance their application to make those determinations, if we think that we are interested. There are many things that our advisory group, which is partnership, brings to us, we say no to, okay? Before it even gets to this board, we say we are not even going to look at that based on the information that you have given us, okay? It is not a fit. We want to make sure that everything comes here is a fit for us, is a fit for those communities too. And thank you for your advocacy in terms of helping us better understand some of the things that we might not be aware of. Thank you, sir. You know, the community is getting involved, so you see the growth. You have been silent for years. Now you are awakened. And we appreciate hearing from you too also. Thank you so much. Moving on.
Item 10.1, Mr. Wiggins, is regarding personnel policy amendments. So presented for your consideration are two recommended amendments to our personnel policy. These changes, proposed changes, are administrative in nature. They align policy with best practices and intended to improve fiscal management, consistency, and clarity. The first proposed change adjusts the date on which vacation leave balances in excess of the allowable cap, which is 240 hours, are transferred to sick leave. Currently, this rollover occurs on December 31st. I recommend changing that to July 1st, aligning it with the county's fiscal year. This will improve the county's ability to accurately calculate and report accrued leave liabilities during preparation of the annual financial statements. The second recommended amendment clarifies how comp time is accrued and managed for non-exempt employees. Under the proposed language, comp time would be the default method of overtime compensation up to a maximum balance of 80 hours. Once an employee reaches the maximum comp time balance, any additional overtime would be paid until the balance is reduced below the threshold. This clarification strengthens internal controls, helps manage long-term financial liability associated with excessive comp time balances, and reinforces supervisor responsibility for scheduling and overtime management. At the time of this recommended policy change, a limited number of employees currently maintain comp time balances in excess of the proposed 80-hour cap. We are actively working to responsibly reduce those balances through existing policy mechanisms, including the voluntary conversion of comp time to sick leave where permitted, and the scheduled use of comp time off while maintaining operational continuity. To avoid an immediate and unintended financial impact, I request the board's authorization to implement this policy change on a transitional basis, such that the existing comp time balances in excess of the cap will not be automatically paid out upon adoption to the policy. Instead, the policy would be applied moving forward, with me authorized to manage the reduction of excess balances over time using allowable methods under our personnel policy. However, it should be noted that any non-exempt employee must be paid the full balance of their accrued comp time upon separation from county employment. I recommend that you approve the amendments to the personnel policy as presented. I do want to clarify one thing. I realize in reading through my memo that it may not be clear. The 80-hour limit for comp time accrual is already in our personnel policy. So that is a guide for us to work to try to keep our staff at or below that so it doesn't accumulate. From time to time, depending on position, vacancies, emergency situation, some staff will accumulate past that. And department heads are always working to try to maintain those as limited as possible and to work those down as quickly as possible. But I just wanted to clarify that the 80-hour upper limit is not new. That's currently in our personnel policy. But happy to answer any questions.
Before I get a motion, I might let the board ask questions. Go ahead. Question Mike. Any questions on this? Is it clear? Would what pay grade start as exempt? Is there a pay classification that starts as exempt?
There is a limit, I can't remember the exact, it's around $40-something thousand. It's based on the salary plus duties. So we have in our comp plan every position that's identified as exempt or non-exempt.
Explain to us exempt and non-exempt.
So Federal Labor Standards Act, FLSA law, says that an exempt employee essentially is a salaried employee that you work as long as it takes to get the job done. You don't get paid overtime, you don't get comp time. That's mostly executive level positions and department heads. There are a few others outside of department heads, but that's mostly what that is. For a non-exempt employee, the federal law says that for most employees, we work a 40-hour week. If you work more than 40 hours, you're entitled to either comp time or overtime paid at time and a half. It's different for law enforcement detention officers, and it is based on a 28-day cycle, 171 hours. So in a 28-day cycle, if they work more than 171 hours, every hour is time and a half, either comp time or...
Comp time is time and a half too, also?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Excuse, can I ask a question?
Go
Because
ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Is it 40 or 45 hours?
40.
It's 40.
Any
Okay.
work week,
I
yes,
just
sir.
want to make sure.
40 hours.
39 if you work at the college.
What's some of that?
39.
You may have answered this question, but I guess the best way to ask would be, let's say, we have an employee that has a considerable amount of comp time. And I know I've read the proposed changes.
Sure.
But is there a maximum amount of comp time that an employee can accrue over an enormous amount of years? And I know you're trying to limit it to 2 weeks or whatever,
Yes,
but
sir.
is that a set max?
As federal law states, if it's a non-exempt employee, if for whatever reason that they accumulate 1,000 hours of comp time overtime,
Yes, sir.
if they walk out the door, we have to pay them then. So the point of having
Yes, sir.
a provision here already, that we already have,
Yes, sir.
is to try to keep that down.
Right.
Now, for those staff that, in certain departments that, I know, and our payroll administrator does a great job, she provides me a spreadsheet of every employee that's over 80, and I know the departments, and I can look down and I can tell why, the reason why they have, short time, short staff, emergency situation, whatever it might be. So it's no surprise, but, so the 80 hours, when we put in our policy, that's a light that goes off for us to say, hey, we
Yes,
need to
sir.
start working on.
Yes, sir.
As federal law states that it does not matter how much, whatever it is, if they are non-exempt, we have to pay it out. One of the purposes for this is, what's part of what this is clearing up, it is not clear enough in our policy when we give comp time, which is leave they can use. Our policy says you get comp leave, and that's supposed to be the first leave you use before you use sick or vacation. Or do we pay them overtime in that paycheck? So it's not clear. So one of the things that this does is to clarify this.
Yes, sir.
Clarify that. So this says a person will get comp leave and accumulate comp leave until they hit 80 hours. Let's say if they already got 80 hours and for whatever reason they had to work over, now they got 90. Then that next pay period, they will be paid down that 10. But I went through all of this to clarify is if you adopt this change tonight, we have some that have well over 80 already. We can't just pay them right now. So I'm asking your permission to implement this in transitioning forward, if that makes sense. Now, if any of them were to walk out tomorrow, we still will have to pay them all of it if they're non-exempt.
We had one department some years ago that we had this in, and it was heavy. Okay, it became a discussion as to how we would handle it at that time. Is there a motion to
So moved.
question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next, Ms. Evans.
The next item is asking you to call for a public hearing. You will recall, sometime back, you approved a change to our personnel policy that increased our percentages for longevity pay. You increased it by a half a percentage point for each level. So an employee, once they get to 5 years, they start getting longevity annually. It starts at 3%, you move that up to 3.5%, so on and so forth. What I realized later is that our ordinance also, the administrative section of our ordinance also speaks of longevity. We did not change that in the ordinance at the time. And so we need to make sure, we need to make the two match. So, but as you know, in order for us to make a change to our ordinance, even really a technical correction like this, requires that you call for a public hearing. So I recommend that you call for a public hearing to be held at your March meeting. I also want to note the other change is in the personnel policy, we moved the deadline to get longevity. We moved it from the 1st of November to the 21st because that's the start of our new pay period and more people start on that day. And so those are the two changes, but I recommend that you call for a public hearing at your March meeting.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Question. You got a question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing is called. Number, attachment 4, resolution honoring the life and legacy of Mrs. Gladys Shelton. I ask Mr. Webb to read that resolution, please.
Thank you. Resolution of the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners honoring the life and legacy of Mrs. Gladys Calhoun Shelton. Whereas Ms. Gladys Calhoun Shelton, a beloved citizen and pillar of Edgecombe County, passed away on Saturday, January the 24th, 2026, leaving behind a remarkable legacy of service, leadership, and devotion to her community. And whereas Ms. Shelton lived a long and meaningful life, reaching the extraordinary milestone of 100 years, during which she consistently demonstrated a deep commitment to public service and civil engagement. And whereas she was a founding and faithful member of the Edgecombe County Council on Aging, where she worked tirelessly to enhance the quality of life and well-being of older adults throughout the county. And whereas Ms. Shelton served more than 50 years as a member of the Pilot Club, exemplifying her lifelong dedication to service, friendship, and community support. And whereas she honorably served the citizens of Edgecombe County as Register of Deeds, faithfully preserving vital public records with professionalism, integrity, and care. And whereas she also served as a member of the Edgecombe Community College Board of Trustees, contributing her leadership and vision to support education, workforce development, and opportunity for generations of students. And whereas in recognition of her exemplary life, service, and impact, Ms. Shelton was awarded the prestigious Order of the Longleaf Pine by the Governor of the State of North Carolina, one of the state's highest civilian honors. And whereas the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners recognizes that the strength of our community and county is built upon the lives and contributions of dedicated citizens such as Ms. Shelton, whose legacy will continue to inspire future generations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners hereby honors the life, service, and legacy of Ms. Gladys Calhoun Shelton and expresses its deepest sympathy and heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, and all who were touched by her life. Adopted the 16th day of February 2026 by the Honorable Chairman Leonard Wiggins, also signed by Tammy Faison, Clerk of the Board.
Is there a motion is that a motion to?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Let it be known that it was unanimous vote to approve that resolution. Let us, I would agree with you. Let us to service to this county, you know. You know, I can recall the Council of Aging. When I was opposed to some of the way she wanted to do it, she won. I couldn't. Yeah, that's exactly right. I couldn't win that argument. I didn't know The strong politics of the two. I was fighting an argument I couldn't win. Moving on.
You have next, Mr. Chairman, item 10.4, which is an amendment to a grant project ordinance. This is for the water and sewer infrastructure project in District 6, which is inside the town of Princeville. The project is complete, but there are funds that are remaining from project funds. USDA Rural Development has agreed to allow us to use those funds to purchase equipment. So the amendment revises the project ordinance to include a capital outlay line. Recommend that you approve as presented.
And that's the amount that's in the capital outlay fund.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
The next is for a grant award to the Sheriff's Office from the Governor's Crime Commission Program, $65,211 for the purchase of mobile radios and crime scene documentation equipment. No match is required. I recommend that you approve the acceptance of the grant by approving the project ordinance and authorizing me to sign the grant agreement.
Motion?
Motion.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. I was looking for my appointments, okay.
You have the item 10.6 of physical policy revisions.
No, go right ahead, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. You'll see in the memo from Ms. Barfield, our CFO, she's recommending these changes to our physical and procurement policies. The proposed changes include section 6.2, completing the requisition. This updates language to reflect mandatory requirements by replacing should with must, and replaces outdated references to Post-it notes with the correct term, content management consistent with the county's current electronic workflow. Section 7.2D clarifies documentation requirements by specifying that supporting documents are scanned into the content management at the time the requisition is submitted. Section 9.12, under supplies and materials, this removes the requirement for me to approve all food purchases, replaces it with language requiring food purchases to be reasonable and directly related to county business, official meetings, or trainings, which is more practical and enforceable. Registration adds the requirement that registrations be approved by the department head, and under travel expenses clarifies that only out-of-town travel requires the county manager approval, ensuring consistency with the county's personnel policy and adopted ordinances. Comes with a recommendation to approve.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Appointments, reappoint to, is there a motion to, appoint all of the agenda on the appointments that are recommended?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, certain questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, all appointments and reappointments are approved. The Tara Edgecombe Public Arts, is that, I didn't see that, was not covered in here?
Yes, sir, it is in there. It is the Arts Commission,
Yes.
reappointment Arts Commission.
I see, okay, right, that's what I do see, right, okay. After list and releases for review, anything for the board, Ms. Evans?
No, sir, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, as you'll recall at the beginning of the meeting, you agreed to add 10.9. You have at your place a copy of a change order. This is a contract with Berry Building Group for renovations at the Human Services Building on the first floor. And this would be to provide and install 2 pass-through sliding windows, not included in the original design, but staff has determined it'd be best suited for operations in that building. So this is a $7,496 increase, and there are sufficient funds in that budget to cover that. Recommend that you approve.
Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Moving on to departmental reports, you have, is the finance officer, she's not here?
She's at a conference, but I will note, you see you have her monthly financial summary report in your packet. Revenues and expenditures are where they are expected for this time of the year. You also have included with that the updated sales tax report. You'll see that our sales tax receipts are trending slightly above last year and above our budget for the year. I do have, you have under departmental reports, Mr. Chairman, Parks and Recreation update.
Right.
We do have Mr. Kelvin Jones tonight, our Parks and Recreation Director, if you would allow him to come up and give us a quick update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm blessed and happy to be here in front of you guys today. I will provide you with the Parks and Rec update, the first one for 2026. Special Olympics, Edgecombe County report. We have completed our 2026 accreditation process. Accreditation takes us from December to December. And certifying the program, we'll be able to host spring games in 2026, as well as an addition to fall games for the first time. So not only are we accredited, we're also expanding the program. This expansion follows an internal evaluation conducted by myself. As part of this process, I assisted Special Olympics Nash County Fall Games, as well as attended Special Olympics North Carolina Fall Games in Charlotte, gaining direct operational insight at both the county and state levels. And then I brought that information back to our Special Olympics Committee, and it was determined at that time that we are ready to expand and add a program, another program. Based on the experience, detailed expansion, the proposal was presented, and the committee approved the addition to fall games, allowing Edgecombe County to expand and get closer to becoming a year-round athletic opportunity for Special Olympics. We will start our calendar fundraiser March 2nd through April the 3rd of this year. Last year was a pretty big hit for spring games, so we're going to bring it back. Recreational mini grant. We have our February advisory board meeting tomorrow, where we will select our report committee. This committee will be based on 3 individuals off the board, and our specific jobs will be to scan through the reports that we received from the organizations that were allotted this past grant, and we will open fiscal year 2026 in April. The Elementary School Basketball League, which this board approved November 2024. We had our kickoff February 14th. So that's about 15 months of planning. Myself, Saeed Murphy, Dr. Bryant, that's the initial planning committee. Then we expanded, reaching Dr. Dove with some testing, HR, England, Austin. So it became a group effort initially. Eventually became a group effort. Right now, our planning committee consists of 8 people, all from ECPR and ECPS. Some league highlights thus far. We had over 350 try out for this initiative across the county, and that's not including cheerleading, that is just basketball. Another highlight, GW Carver in Pontops had the highest tryout numbers with just in basketball. They had 70 kids in one gym. We have 192 jerseys that were sponsored by Edgecombe County Parks and Rec. Every jersey is filled. So just from our basketball numbers, we had 192 kids. That's not including cheerleading. We throw cheerleading in, we're probably somewhere closer to 300. And that's what we are providing service for. This initiative touches every municipality in Edgecombe County, and it deals with all but one elementary school in Edgecombe County. Fairview Elementary only goes to 2nd grade. This initiative starts 3rd through 5th, so that's why they were left out. The program is staffed completely by ECPS employees and volunteers. So we use the community to build the community in this aspect, as I like to say, and it worked definitely to our advantage. We have 16 teams, 13 coaches, and we play games every Saturday at Martin Millennium Academy, starting at 8:15, going last game tip-off at 1 o'clock. For timing and logistics, 6 teams play every Saturday, leaving 2 schools with a bye week. So principals get their time off. Every principal has a weekend where they just relax, and I felt like that was important. We don't want this to feel like an addition to work. We want it to be like a breath of fresh air. If you have, as of Saturday, we had about 250 people come in and out of the gym. With that initiative, with having that much traffic, you can treat every Saturday like a PTO meeting. So you can push information out at halftime that you might not have been able to get out before. So it's a well-constructed partnership thus far. I'm very excited about it. We have about 8 weeks left. And I would like to some acknowledgement. So Edgecombe County Parks and Rec to extend its sincere appreciation to my ECPR advisory board. We've came a long way. And I appreciate the advice and direction that I received thus far. Dr. Bryan and the full ECPS staff, the ECPS school board, as well as once again my advisory board, Ms. Tammy Faison for her execution and keen eye on projects, Ms. Natalie Best for her guidance and leadership, and Mr. Eric Evans for his ongoing encouragement and support. I would like to close with a quote that I read every time I go to the county manager's conference office, and it's individually we are smart, together we are genius. So Edgecombe County, we may have had the blueprint, we may have had it structured, but without ECPS, none of this happened. So just using one to build the other, and initially, at the end of the day, our residents is who was the recipient of this. So not to one hand washes the other, but initially our residents are the one that received the cleaning. Any questions at this time?
Thank you for what you do. Parents are really, really excited, and I'm so glad you told me what was going on at Martin Middle. Now I can go home and tell my husband stop being so nosy. I want to know what all those cars down at Martin Middle. I don't know everything that go on in this county. But
If he
that's
couldn't get it from you, won't.
Yeah,
You couldn't
but
get it from
look,
nowhere.
but that's exactly what it was. Probably all y'all was down there on Saturday.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Well, I don't know, if we're gonna continue to fund you, you didn't thank us. Just a reminder, okay?
I kept hearing those acronyms. I kept hearing the acronyms and I didn't hear ours.
But you got us in a position that we got the funding, okay? Because it appears to be working, okay? But just a reminder, always thank your funding board, okay? You'll put that in, okay? That's just for your information, okay? And Mr. Peters over here kind of high.
And Mr. Chairman.
And that was done with humor, okay? It was done with humor.
If I could, while Kelvin's still standing at the podium, and I want to just, I mean, he said it all, and he said it very well. But I think this is a tremendous milestone in our Parks and Recreation program. 2021, you all adopted our comprehensive Parks and Recreation plan. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you remember.
I remember.
You looked at me and said, all right, we adopted it now. It's your job to implement it, right? And you said, don't let it sit on a shelf.
With no money.
That's right. And so from that, we started building on our recreation mini grant program that we already had. We formed a Parks and Rec advisory board. They started working, building the capacity of the board. They came and then recommended and said, Ms. Evans, you need to move on getting this Parks and Rec position. We brought that to you all. You approved that. And I'd never met, well, I think I met him briefly, Mr. Jones, but he applied for the job and he's by far the best person for the job and has done a great job. And he took it and he's been building, and this is not the first success. Y'all been hearing his reports. But this is one of those sort of giant leaps that's really big, especially, you know, to see the smiles on the faces of the kids and so many parents to come and attend it this past Saturday was fantastic. So thank you all for trusting in what we're trying to do in Parks and Recreation and supporting everything. And I just want to say thank you to Kelvin for a job well done.
Well,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Kevin, if you just give it 7, 8 years, then all these state championships won't just be going to the Viking football
Amen.
team. They'll be going to Warriors, Vikings.
Yes, sir.
We gotta get on the north side.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Got
ma'am.
a baby back out there.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am. But
They can take
Well,
it down.
you know, it's something that we probably should have already been involved in, putting more money into the recreation of our citizens. But, you know, just listen to Mr. Jones, his heart is in it. So if your heart is, you know, you did an excellent job of your presentation, and if your heart is in it, the people will accept it, and people will support you. So it appears you're out there, and just you know, I just knew that when you brought to us the basketball program, I knew that was going to work. Okay, because our people just need something to do,
yes, sir.
and if we help them with these particular projects and any other things that you can wrap your arms around it, chess and checkers, all these things, the games, the people, the teaching of the mind, all of these things we need to get involved in. If we involve our children in it, we will probably reduce our crime rate is not like a lot say, but we can reduce those rates, okay? Our young people need something to do.
And I'm glad to see girls and boys.
For example, yes.
And you know, and I think, you know, there are a lot of our other businesses out there, I don't know if they've been approached, that would probably, with this program going, would be happy to participate in those programs, okay? Anything else?
I wish I was back in the 3rd grade. It just ain't no darn telling how good I would have been if I'd had something like that.
You'd be running the court somewhere, wouldn't you?
And the second grade is only for our third graders. So,
You didn't hear Mr. Barlow come in.
Y'all hear William? Tell him what he said.
so the rules of the league is set up for development. So the ages for the league is 3rd through 5th grade, with the second quarter being only for 3rd graders. And the reason being is the 3rd graders are normally your smaller players on the team, the younger player on the team. So we just don't want them to sit on the bench. So if we give them a whole quarter, you have 8 weeks of 8 minutes. That's 64 minutes of live game action for a 3rd grade that comes back to your school for 2 years. It's a lot of thought and effort that's been put in this, and I just want to end on, I love this county, I love my job, and Edgecombe strong.
Oh, yeah, north side.
Exactly.
Put him out in the commercial.
You don't get it twisted, that ain't right.
Athletes on the edge in Edgecombe County. That's where they are.
Anything else on the department reports, Ms.
That's it,
Evans?
Mr. Chairman, under department reports.
Moving on to manager's report.
Under my report, just want to note, I wanted this something I decided to start doing. We need to, in this public setting, start to recognize our retirees. And so our most recent retirees have been Ms. Patricia Jones, who retired from Department of Social Services with 34 years. Sheila Norman, who retired from the Department of Social Services for 24 years. And Ms. Linda Powell, who retired from the Sheriff's Office with 27 years. And those are the ones who just retired in the last couple of months, so we'll start doing this every month. But all these, we certainly hate to lose them, but we congratulate them on their retirement and thank them for their service.
You might also add that they're all products of North Edgecombe.
And those two, they were classmates.
All products.
So,
North Rise.
Oh, wow.
North side, strong side.
Have
I just
longevity.
told y'all.
are you all through?
Gotta give us some bragging rights.
Moving on, Ms. Evans.
The only other thing, you have for your review, major events and updates of mine, workforce development indicators, the TDA monthly financial report, also proposing that your annual retreat be on March 16th. That is the typical time of the month of March that we have our retreat. That is a Monday. And tentatively planning for that date, and if that is okay with the board, we'll proceed.
Any objections, sir? Continue the plan. Commissioners report. Anything from commissioners?
I want to just raise one thing. Mr. Thorne raised a very good point about these lots. And I don't know where it's covered or how it's covered, but I would hate to see us, as a county, get ourselves in a situation where septic tanks became a humongous problem. And if you remember back to out at Kingsborough, how many we dug up? But when you put a house on 2,000 square feet or 22,000 square feet, you're talking about a 100 by 200 lot. You know, I don't know that it's covered in there, I don't know that it's not. I'm just asking the manager to make sure that it is covered, because, you know, there should be something we should be able to do to control how much of that goes on.
Well, if you remember, when we talked about our housing development out on 111 near Macclesfield, I raised that very question. It's kind of like, phew. But that's a sincere question. I mean, when you got a house on that small amount of land, and we're talking about, for this guy we approved today was 10 acres, right? Yeah. 10 acres ain't a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's the same dimensions as far as lot by lot. But when you're looking at 10 acres, or you looking at 186 acres, again, I'm not an environmental scientist, so we just let it go with what.
I think the difference on that, this one's even more alarming because there's not flood in that. That is all buildable, whereas the one out on 111, there's a lot of areas in that that's not buildable at all. So that was just something that, I know Nash County has said that they are not going to do, it has to have sewer in order for them to do it. Wilson County has said
For 20,000 square feet.
For 20,000 square feet, it has to have sewer. And then I think Pitt County has now done that too. So all of the surrounding counties have done that.
I just do not see how you could put ample sewer on every 20. I don't see that.
A septic tank.
Yeah, septic tank, septic system. Sure. Yeah.
So is water and sewer available?
Water's a bit, sewer not, we don't have county sewer system.
Not countywide, we have it only in certain areas. But what I will do is, at your next meeting, we'll come back and report to show you what current ordinance talks about as it relates to requirements for septic system, what those setbacks are, those types of things, just so we can all be on the same page about what we have on the books currently.
Well, other than what we've got on the books, let's take a look, and you and Mr. Spells, and see, give us your thoughts on it, if it's anything. I think we don't need to be so strict we have no growth, okay, in terms of our, but neither do we need to be, there seems to be some concern about it. So let's address the board's concerns. That's what they think. You know, you don't have to bring us a recommendation, just bring us information.
Yes, sir. Happy to.
I got one more quick thing. This will be very quick. I had a constituent that called me about complaining about the trains at Little Mexico, so I called Mr. Evans.
The what?
Trains what?
About the trains at Mexico holding him up. Little Mexico, I'm sorry,
And
down
what
at
is it?
301.
Sharpsburg.
You know where I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's
right.
in the Alden Street where you go over the.
Right,
I know who
right.
called you.
Well, there's probably 1,000 people that like to call me, but one did call me.
Yeah.
So, and he came up with a fantastic idea. I thought, he said, well, why can't the railroad have an app that people can download that tells them when the trains are coming? So, and Mr. Evans called
So
me
they never on
today.
time.
Well, Mr. Evans called me today and said he had an answer, and I'll let you tell it real quick.
Yeah, from the research that I found is that, first of all, with passenger trains, that's something that's already available. You can go on their website and they have apps
Right.
available where you can check on scheduling, where they're going, where they're coming and going, and whether or not they're on schedule. But for freight trains, they do not release that information, primarily for security reasons. They don't like for their trains to be that easy to track. They do share that with clients of theirs, but they don't share that information publicly.
So if you get that question, you got an answer already.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a great idea.
And I understand the question, because I don't know if you guys are like this. I've always heard that a freight train or passenger train cannot hold up an intersection. You're lost, so you should know this. You can verify this. I've always heard they cannot hold it up any longer than 5 minutes. Well, if you've been at that one in Little Mexico, I have sat there for 25 minutes and turned around and went back under the tunnel at Rocky Mountain.
Every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm like, wow.
That's why
That-
you learn where the four egresses are. There's four
Yeah.
places you can get around it. You gotta learn where they are.
I wanted to tell that man.
It's only four.
well, you know, really, that's gonna be a continuing problem,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
as with the intermodal. And you know, even they closed some of the railroad crossings. But I understand even before they close railroad crossings, they got to have to come to the local government. And so that's going to be an increasing problem. And while it's a problem all over our city as it relates to trains and to those trains sitting there. It's more of a problem. And they close up down there, the fountain area, that crossing they close up down there in terms of the ways that, like you said, if you live in I can get around it because if I'm in the city, because I know what goes over it and I know where the tunnel is, and I can get around it. But it's still it's a tremendous problem in the city, and it's going to get worse. I think that's a part of sometime way back in our discussion we had as to the potential growth and how that would impact the traffic and especially out in the Westland area, out in that area. Any other things from commissioners?
Just if there's anything that the board would like me to take with me, I'll be heading to DC on Saturday for the National Association of County Commissioners Legislative Conference in Washington, DC. And we go to Capitol Hill on Monday. So if there's anything specific you want me to speak to, because we'll knock on not only just our representative doors, but other people's doors.
And Mr. Chairman, if that makes me think of, if I could share something I should have shared in my report. Just for your awareness, the North Carolina General Assembly, first the House of Representatives, they created a committee to study counties' authority to levy and collect property taxes. It seems to be in response from complaints from citizens about, taxes increasing, revaluation, those kinds of things. That committee has met a couple of times. Representatives from the Association of County Commissioners, they have been there to present on behalf of counties, representing the county's interests. Also, just recently, the state Senate created a similar committee that's exploring the same thing. And so I think it's just important for us to understand that those conversations are being had at the General Assembly level. Nothing has come out as to anything that they're considering doing, if they're considering making any changes, but I think it's important for us to know that those discussions are being held.
For the possibility they take the ability for us to levy taxes.
Yes, sir.
Or change it in some way.
Yeah, well, so, anything else? Hearing none. Mr. Peters?
No, sir.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go in closed session to discuss an economic development matter and a personnel matter. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Thank everybody for coming.
No, Mr. Spell. Mr. Spell, I need to talk to you just a second.
I think I had the old agenda and budget amendment.
Thank you. No, we really need,
We're open.
we're,
We're in the open.
okay. We're now in open session. Is any business to be brought to open session?
Mr. Chairman, the Personnel Committee, we would like to recommend that we extend our attorney's contract, Michael Peters, for 5 years.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Let me know what I'm got to sign, okay?
You draft your own contract?
Yeah, oh yeah, he grabbed it on. Hey, make sure you just run it off. Run it off so it look like the other one, okay? Is there anything that's coming to open session?
No, sir.
The motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by voting sign aye.